Johnson, and this is focused on Liberia. Hit it! From Cape Mount to Cape Palmer, Mount Nimba to Atlantic Ocean, Obomi Hills to Boakai, to educate, elevate, and promote. Yeah, focus on Liberia. For Liberia, Liberia. For Liberia, yeah. From Monday to Sunday. From Monday to Sunday. It's focus on Liberia. Talk about home affairs. Hey. In diaspora. Current affairs. Hey. Reliable information. History. Ooh. Talking about culture. Yeah. Politics. Education. Entertainment. Yeah. Business. Sports. Advertisement. Articulation. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. From Monday to Sunday. Focus on.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Friday Night Debate on Focus on Liberia. My name is Dennis Jar, and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. In tonight's debate, we're going to be looking at the constitution of the committee to oversee the appointment of the head of the office of the War and Economic Crimes Court, or the War Crimes Court. A new committee has been constituted to oversee the appointment of who become part of this committee. We call that a vetting committee. Is Mr. Boakai making the best decision now? Is he smelling the coffee and waking up? Or what's going on here? We're going to be debating that. Also, he's named the RISE, or the Road Maintenance, Rehab, and Finance Committee. That new committee, what's their role? We're going to be talking about all this and debating the pros and cons of a road committee after the RISE committee. Somebody told me, say, wait now, the president trying to make committee on every ministry now, but we'll check it out. Let me welcome the unapologetic and unabashed seditious, Mr. Jerome Gilman. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much for having me. It's an honor to be on here with all these respectable men. Hopefully we'll have a lady join us soon.
Thank you. Let me also welcome the new progressive, Dr. Clarence R. Pearson. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Dennis, for having me. And hi to all of the panelists out there, our good friends. And thanks to the audience for joining us tonight. We're looking forward to a great show.
Let me also welcome Pastor S.C. Salif, the Sustainable Development Coach. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Dennis. Thanks to all the other panelists that are here tonight. I'm looking forward to a great debate tonight.
Let me welcome Minister Anthony Kuwankwa, the man who has the privilege of working in both the Ellen Johnson and George Weah administration. Welcome, sir. You are muted. Unmute yourself, please.
Thank you, Dennis. Former Deputy Minister Anthony Kuwankwa. It's a pleasure to be on the show, and I want to extend my thanks and appreciation to the Focus on Liberia Management for this opportunity. Thanks to all panelists here. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome. Let me welcome Mr. A. Boakai Dukle joining us from Canada. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Dennis. It's a pleasure to be here.
And let me mention Mr. Boakai is an Islamic scholar who is trained. He's trained the Harvard of the Islamic study. That's in Egypt. That's where he graduated from. So anything Islamic, call him. Welcome, sir. We're glad to have you.
Thank you, Dennis.
Let me also welcome Mr. Elvis Morris. He's a long-time fan and supporter of FOL, and also a panelist on Point, the Sunday afternoon debate show. Welcome, Elvis.
Thank you, Mr. Jai. It's always a pleasure to be with these reputable gentlemen. Glad to be on.
Thank you. Let me welcome all our viewers from across the globe. If you have not already shared the show, please share the show, invite your friend, and let's get started. Well, there is a memo of the information minister has announced that the committee has been constituted to oversee the appointment of people that will make up the office of the War Crime Court. We already have the head that was appointed. The release did not say that head was fired or withdrawn. I see some newspaper carrying that headline that is withdrawn. From my understanding from the reading, that has been, the office is being constituted, that vetting committee has been constituted, and they will recommend 3 names to the president, and he will pick one. Between now and that time, I believe Councillor Massacre will still be working as head of the Office of the War Crimes Court. And I think it is even possible that the committee put forward his name. Who knows? So we don't know. So that's the news. That's what we've heard from the Minister of Information of Cultural Affairs and Tourism. So, and this has come at a time that a lot of people have criticized, especially people in the human rights area, have criticized the appointment of Mr. Councillor Massacre and the process leading to his appointment. Let me start with Mr. Elvis Morris here. Elvis, what you make of the appointment? What I've been reading is what you make of this appointment. Good thing that President Boakai has listened and now he's doing what he needs to do. I think we should give the president, a hand clap. What do you think?
Oh, Mr. Jai, I was thinking about that. I think we have to applaud him for having a quote unquote political ear and being able to listen to his citizens when they're unhappy with any of the choices that he makes. I think from past, experience, when we had the Army wives, he changed, the defense minister. When we had Cooper Tier, who was, the designated minister of justice, he was changed as well. So I think we have to applaud the president for having an ear to hear. But I think one of the things that you're saying now, he's doing things backwards. In any sound leadership, vetting is always important. After he was, president-elect, those few months before he ascended, to the office of the presidency, he should have done all his vetting, especially for those who are going to be in his cabinet. So it shows that he didn't do appropriate vetting. And I would disagree with you slightly if you think that, Councillor Massacre would be, selected to head the court, because if he was going to be selected, this whole process would, they would have not constituted this committee to vet and to find people who are more, suitable for this, for this position. So I think definitely this is going to be another one of those, disappointment where the president appoints somebody and has to withdraw them because they don't have either the experience or the character is not intact enough to be, heading such a reputable institution. And I think for me, it goes to the president's, I would say psychic, but you take somebody who is not good enough to be justice minister, right? You withdraw their name and you put him into an arguably more sensitive position where it means so much more to Liberians or even international partners on a war crimes court, committee or establishing it. And then you don't do enough vetting. You don't know this person's background. So I wonder if after this guy is probably taken off this course, he's going to be put into another position again in government. So for me, I think President Boakai has made a lot of mistakes when it comes to his appointment, but we'll give him an applaud because he listens and he's not an imperial president or some people who will be high-headed and not listen when the citizens are not happy with the members of government that they appoint. So kudos to the president, but at the same time, take your time to make these appointments, vet these people, appropriately before you make any kind of sensitive appointment to these key positions. Thank you.
Thank you, but I did not say that he going to appoint Massacre. I say it's likely. Because,
come on, Mr. Yeah. Come on, Mr. Jad.
It's possible. It's possible. I shouldn't say likely. It's possible.
I would say the chances of it happening is less than zero. Because if you're going to keep this, guy that you won't constitute another committee to just come and reaffirm him.
The committee is supposed to give him 3 names. So it is possible that this committee put forward the name of Massacre in that hat. True or false?
I say false, because it would be a charade to bring this whole committee, because if this was the guy that's even going to be in the running, why even
this committee, right? But anyway, let me hear from Mr. Gibman on this. I just wanted to point out that the memo did not say that Massacre was fired. Mr. Gibman, what's your take?
Well, I will be honest with you. I have to disagree with Mr. Morris here. Joseph Boakai has been pinned on the mat into the corner by the international community. He had no other choice. Where Joseph Boakai had choices, like obeying the rule of law from the Supreme Court, where is domestic, he have decided to overrun the Supreme Court of the Republic of Liberia. That is not somebody who makes decisions in the interest of the country. Joseph Boakai has no choice now. The international community have listened to Massa Washington. I have listened to everybody that have a stake, all the stakeholders, including the orator for July 26, at the behest of the international community, that this was a no-go. So Joseph Boakai doing this as usual, it is not witty. It is not by choice. Joseph Boakai is forced to do this. There's no other way around it. So I wouldn't give him kudos on this. I would give him kudos on appointing Dr. Nya at the national health. That is somebody who is qualified, can do the job, somebody who is internationally recognized, that fit that position. That I will give him credit. But for this one, no, he had no choice but to backpedal.
Thank you, Mr. Kumba. And the committee, including people from ECOWAS. So I want to get your take, and that committee, the members of that committee, what does that tell you?
So I will want to get away from Mr. Gilmer a little bit. What the president has made a lot of mistakes, but I think this one, he has listened, like Brother Morris said, and he's doing the right thing. Look, let's be honest. There are certain individuals in our society that have been very, very strong behind the whole issue of WCC. That's the War Crimes Code, right? And it is important that those people are not left along the way. They must be a part of this process. And so when you see a lot of kickbacks against the appointment of Massacre, it speaks to the fact that these people who have been in the trenches all these years calling for this one WCC to come to Liberia, they see now that something is beginning to happen in that direction. Yeah, they are not, being considered for those things. I think it was good on the president's part to have listened and doing the right thing, because the issue of WCC in Liberia is not as easy as we would just come and talk about it here. All right, it's deeper than we can say on these different, talk shows. But it is good that the civil society is part of it. They've been one of the lead, groups behind this whole WCC thing, and bringing on the international community or our sub-regional partners, ECOWAS, is also very good, because one thing that a lot of people will talk about when you talk about the WCC thing in Liberia is the fact that it has to be broad-based. It should not be just targeting specific individuals. It should open up so that all those, will what it calls. So the fact that you expanding, the committee is very good for me. I think the president deserves, some kudos here, even though there are other places that we know we don't agree with him. Thank you.
Dr. Salif, we have the Ministry of Justice, or the chairing this. We have the Economic Community of West African States, the African Union, the Interreligious Council of Liberia, an eminent organization. I mean, what is that all about? Can we have just Liberians doing this? Why we need ECOWAS and AU and all that? On mute, please.
You're muted.
Like I said before, I think on the last show, it's a sign of incompetence. It's just a sign of somebody not knowing what they're doing. And I beg to disagree with Brother Morris. I don't think President Boakai is a listening person. I don't think he's listening now. That's why he's doing it. This is 7 months he has not listened. I want to fully agree with, and thank God Gaiman went before me. That's exactly what I wanted to say. He's cornered. He doesn't have a choice. So he has to do some of these things the way I've been calling from day one, that he should have right after it was announced, right after George Weah conceded the election, right there, the government should have started to create all the different committees for vetting people, for ministries, for vetting people, for agencies, and all these things. When day one, I've been crying that, and he has just not paid attention. He has series of missteps. And I think right now he's just out of options. You know, he doesn't have any other thing to do. So it looks like he's listening. It's a good step. I mean, just by having the committee, I don't fault that. It's a good step, but I think it came out of necessity. I don't think it was something done volitionally. It came out of necessity. And he should have looked inward. There are qualified Liberians that could sit on that committee to vet whoever works on the war crime code, but going to bring ECOWAS, bring all these other people, I mean, it reduces the local content. It's our problem, it's our code, and I think we should be the voices in that. So I don't think he's listening. I think his backs are against the wall. That's all I would say.
If I can ask for 10 seconds, but maybe not.
Yeah, go ahead, 10 seconds.
Yeah, I would just respond to Dr. Salib and say that the president listened when it came to, Cooper Tia. The president listened when it came to the justice minister. The president has listened. Of course, he make the initial steps, and they're usually wrong, and then he backtrack and he writes them. So to say he doesn't listen, I don't think that's that's true. And lastly, this is going to be an international court, whether we like it or not. Maybe the security is going to probably come from ECOWAS. We're probably going to have troops from ECOWAS that's going to come and bring security to our country. You have, of course, the donor nations who are going to sponsor this court with millions of their taxpayer dollars. So I think they too have to have a say in this court. We can't just be selfish and say it's an only Liberian court, and thereby we're going to comprise of this committee, because we're depending on the other countries to come here and help us, whether it's with security or with funding. So I think we have to be fair to the international community. Thank you.
Dr. Pearson.
Thank you, Dennis, for having me.
A lot of people, especially African presidents, from what we see, I mean, they won't listen, right? But he listened here. So do you agree with others?
Listening and being out of options are two different things. But go ahead, Dr.
But what is your reliance that he's cornered and he has no other option? You don't know, do you?
Well, we've been following. This is 7 months, so I think we have some clues. But I want to hear Dr. Pearson.
Dr. Pearson, go ahead.
All right. Thanks for having me, Dennis. And I think a couple of my ideas on this matter have already been stressed. I would like to begin by saying, Mr. Dennis, a couple of things that we can take into consideration. First of all, when Councillor Jonathan was first announced, people sought to understand why he was picked to begin with, because the issue about addressing war crimes and crimes against humanity and other gross human rights violations is not an easy path to go down. We also had our issue with the TRC went. At the end of the TRC, we had some serious controversy over the process, and up to now, there are a large majority of us have not agreed on the credibility of the TRC process. And so once President Boakai took an admirable step moving forward with this entire process of the War and Economic Crimes Code that we all have advocated for many years, that Madam Ellen Johnson said he did not bring forward. President Weah, who already advocated for it, did not even bring it forward, but he brought it forward. So we want to commend him for that. On the account of Jonathan, Jonathan is an excellent lawyer when I look into him. He has a very vibrant profile as a lawyer. He works with the law firm of Fanatic Kofa when I look into him. But again, some of us being direct a victim of the civil crisis in Liberia, like I mentioned a lot of time in my articles and things, 5, 6, 17 years ago, we lost family members in that war. I also lost my father in that war. So when I went to look into Councillor Jonathan, I realized that he had represented Madam Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. He had represented Agnes Taylor, the wife of former President Taylor, who is now in The Hague. He represented Nancy Doe, the former late President Samuel Doe. He also represented Gabriel Massaquoi, a general in the RUF fighting forces. So there were too much baggage, that come with his prior professional career. And what that does, Dennis, is that it undermines the credibility of his bias. Is he biased? Is there any perceived bias? He doesn't have the necessary to be biased, but the perceived bias in the field that he's functioning in is very important. And so the entire process of the court would have been undermined, even though he would not have been the one prosecuting people. But just laying the foundation alone would have brought the court into question by some of us who are the victims. So like you rightly said, there were civil society organizations that came up and questioned that. I personally wrote a letter to some of my friends that I have around, because I've been in the cycle for some time now. I wrote the United Nations, I wrote the AU, I wrote the ECOWAS, I wrote the American Congress, I wrote the American Embassy in Liberia. I also wrote the American Special Envoy on these things, war crimes and crimes against humanity and human rights. So I wrote all of these, and we were very stern.
So the president has listened, has a change of mind.
So I thought to just lay that up first, because it has to be established, Dennis, that we didn't just not want this guy because of any personal issue, and that he's not qualified for the job, but just the fact that we want this process to be clean, so that at the end of the day, those of us who want closure cannot have any dark cloud hanging over the process. So let me. So when I laid this foundation, it just goes to say I didn't think President Boakai, had any choice. I think if President Boakai had a choice, he would have done the same thing he did with the LTA. He would have gone against this popular call for him to record Councillor Jonathan Taylor. And I'm certain about that, because even on the website, the Facebook page, Kula Fofana, the press secretary to the president, discounted that he was even recalled to begin with. She put a press release out that the president did not recall him on this position. We all heard the rumors. And to even add insult to injury, they have not even put anything up to that regard. It took the Ministry of Information, Culture, and Tourism to post something to this respect. We say, well, that is their role, but right. The same courtesy could have got to put everything else on there. Why didn't they come from the president's office directly? So was it done out of reluctance? I said that. I think it was done out of reluctance, but I still give him thanks for taking action to begin with.
Right, but I don't want us to speculate as to why the president took this action. And Kula Fofana not publishing it on the e-mention website does not mean that it is not the president's, this is not part of the president's action, right? Unless we know that he was being pressurized by external forces that Other than that, it's mere speculation. Will you agree?
Mr. Dennis, I can tell you for a fact there's a lot of pressure on President Boakai for the pick of Councillor Jonathan Massaquoi.
Okay, tell me who's calling the pressure and what is the proof there?
There was major lobby, and I'm telling you, I was one of those in the vanguard lobbying against that nomination. Nothing personal against him, but I lobbied up to the AU, the ECOWAS, the American Congress. I lobbied up to my own congressman here. I lobbied up to the Special Envoy of the United States.
I know what you lobbied, but did any of them tell you that they were pressurizing President Boakai to do that?
That diplomacy, President Boakai action tells you that they lobby work.
All right. So we don't know. Let me
go. In the context, Dennis, the man, Massaquoi already had a cloud of conflict of interest swerving all around him, and we talked about these things on other platforms, and we pushed that he can't be the one ahead of the war crime court.
I agree.
If he had listened, he would have done it ever since. Why is he doing it now? It's because his backs are against the wall. That's all. I don't think it's because he listens.
No, he was convinced. He was convinced by the lobbying, like Dr. Pearson said, and he changed his mind. Which that old adage: a fool's never change, right? But the wise man, the wise man changes. And I think he did a wise thing by changing his position, which is the right position to be on for the country. So let's give him kudos for that. Nothing, they don't take skin off our backs.
Listen, that is not a change.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Mr. Your 30 seconds before Abdullah.
Yeah, thank you. I think we all are in agreement in some way, okay? Because the president made a decision. Whether somebody called him from the U.S. to say, look, my man, you got to do this thing, so, he made a decision. It was his to make. He made a decision. It's a good thing because there's always been the issue of fairness about whatever happens with this work around quoting with Liberia. Okay, so just leaving it with us Liberians, trust me, for us to get from square one to square two, it will be very difficult because if you look at the war that happened in Liberia, some way, somehow, almost the entire country had some kind of way or some kind of thing to say about what happened in our country. So it's important that we bring some neutral people that when they make a decision, people will know that, you know what, people are making decisions on the basis of the evidence being provided. So I thought it was a good move from the president.
Mr. Dukley.
Well, Dennis, thank you. You know, I beg to differ with almost all of the panelists on this one. You see,
that's why I kept you last. I knew you were going to differ for everybody.
You see, the basis for people now wanting Councillor Jonathan to head this committee, it has no basis in law to begin with. Secondly, yes, people might have their perceived bias, but you know, whether we like it or not, Liberia as a nation does not have the capacity. Liberia as a nation does not have the know-how how to handle discord. So as a result, we are going to rely on bilateral partners as well as international partners. Now, in the grand scheme of things, it's almost impossible to find someone who, I mean, based on a kind of argument people have made against Councillor Jonathan, it's almost impossible to see anyone who would come to that position as clean as we want them to be. Now, Brother Coimba just alluded to something earlier. What happened in Liberia touched every Liberian. No matter where you are, no matter what ethnic group you belong to, no matter what county, geographical location you belong to, we were all affected in one form or another. Now, when you look at this international war crime code that we're talking about, there were two previous governments who were supposed to pay attention to it. No one did. Yeah, kudos to President Boakai for even taking the initial step to establish it. Now, you see, it is very troubling to see something as simple as just even selecting who is going to lead this organization to help us go through this war crime code. So, you know, it's almost like you can see here in this part of the world where Councillor Jonathan is a professional man, he's a lawyer, and his job is to represent whoever comes across him, no matter what. So if he represented somebody and who might in a way, in some form, has some connection to whatever is going to happen, he is not going to be the final arbiter. As a matter of fact, yeah, he's going to head it, but he's not going to have the final word. So for people to just assume because of what we refer to as perceived bias, that automatically disqualifies Councillor Jonathan. I don't think it has any basis in law to begin with. And secondly, the justification that some of us are saying is not warranted. Now, on the administrative side of things, the fact that there is even a remote possibility that he might be mentioned among the three that will be suggested to the president, it speaks to the haphazard nature with which we handle these things. For somebody as seasoned politically as President Boakai is, their faux pas should have been avoided from the get-go. This wasn't something that happened suddenly out of nowhere. No, they knew that this was coming. They knew they wanted to do this. So in planning for all the things they were planning for, this should have been one of the things that they planned for. Now, in my opinion, I think in order for this thing to get the needed reputation, it would be a good idea to look for a Liberian jurist who is not tainted, who has not been part of all the 14, 15 years of destroying ourselves. Because, like I said, it's extremely difficult to find somebody in Liberia, a lawyer who was in Liberia during the years of the war, and to find them to be absolutely as clean as we want them to, Dennis.
But at least that lawyer can be somebody who never represented alleged war criminals, right? That should be the bare minimum.
But representing a war criminal is not a crime. It's not a disqualification.
No, but
I don't know why you guys pinning this on that. It's representing a war criminal. It's not a disqualifier.
Are we gonna get 30 seconds to Dennis?
Yeah, but Mr.
Hold on, Mr. Salif. What I want to add there is, according to the MICAT boss, the limit PI said the committee has 21 days to be able to forward 3 names to the president. But we don't know the term of reference. The head of the National Bar Association said, nobody has told me what the term of reference is up to the time when Front Page Africa spoke to him. So what do we see down the road? Because if at this time that there is still no term of reference, what is it they're going to be looking at? And they have 21 days. What do you see at the end of this row again? Mr. Salif, I want you to go first.
I wanted to just quickly respond.
Yeah. You can respond.
The thing is, in jurisprudence, I mean, when does recusal come in? When does recusal come in? Recusal come in because of your proximity to other cases that could, promote an environment, a conflict of interest. Nobody is saying he's not qualified. But given the participant in the civil conflict that he has represented, he has defended, to come now on the war crime side, that's already a conflict of interest. We're not talking about his qualification. He is qualified. He's an excellent lawyer, but there is a conflict of interest. That's all we're saying. We're not dwelling on his qualification, Mr. Ducle.
But where is the conflict if he's not going to be prosecuting?
But he will be running the show backstage, so he's everything goes through him.
Yeah, but he's not going to have a final say.
As the head of the war crime code, he stages everything. Everything goes run through him. So there is a conflict of interest. Are we saying there's no other person qualified than Massaquoi? Is that what we're saying? That is void of conflict of interest?
And then don't forget, if you're going to bake a cake, there's a process. The process from getting the ingredients to getting the stove ready to getting the bake and getting it out, a full baked cake. Any misstep in the process can damage the entire cake. That's what we're saying. The entire process from start to end has to be void of any blemish, so that at the end of the day, the process will not be condemned. Like we saw the TRC process. That's what we're saying.
Yeah, but you have a problem with the TRC process, but that's a whole different show. I don't know what your issue. So what's your issue with the TRC process?
Like you see, we don't have time for that. We don't have time for that. That's a long period. That TRC report, that even went to the Supreme Court where Ellen, in fact, did not get the penalty that was measured out for her in that TRC report. Some of the commissioners on that report did not even sign that report. So there were a lot of. In fact, one of my professors in the University of Liberia, the graduate program, believed that the full implementation of the TRC process was not met. Okay, because he said certain process that were listed in the formational act was not carried out. So it's
anyway, that would be another topic, because even Supreme Court ruling, not every Supreme Court can agree. But let me go to you, Mr. Kwamba.
Yes.
Let's look at the way this committee has been constituted, and we're waiting to hear the term of reference and all that. But let me mention that human rights people like Madam Massa Washington, they praise the decision of the president. But are we, President Boakai, with many years of experience, This one looked like it was a mistake and he's trying to course correct. But do you think in this second attempt he's crossing all the T's and dotting the I's?
We will hope that he's doing that. But based on my experience in Liberia, I hope it wouldn't turn out to be another bureaucracy to stall this thing from going on, right? We'll hope that they will do all that's required, so that, but to just come back again, that situation in Liberia, to find a Liberian person, an administrator or a lawyer or somebody who is as plain as the white paper to run the affairs of that office, I hope to be in that process to identify that person one day. But it's going to be very, very difficult owing to the nature of the conflict we had in our country. All right? And so at some point, we will have to say, you know what? We have to move on and let this thing work once and for all. Because trust me, Dennis, even to this date, there are people in Liberia that are still hurting. Let's be honest.
Yes.
All right? There are people in Liberia that are still hurting from whatever happened in our country. Okay? It is important that, because these are Liberian people like you and myself, we all lost loved ones during the conflict, right? There has to be a period that this republic say, okay, we'll move on. But we have to do it properly so that everyone who is involved or everyone who will go for code hearing or whatever understands that this thing is being done fairly, that you are not being singled out from a group. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gaiman.
First of
Mr.
all,
Gaiman, the background here is President Salif did not do this. President Weah tried to kick it down the road. And now President Boakai sees the opportunity. Do you think this is just the form of making sure this is formed? Because President Salif she was in a habit that just let's have it to just have a checkmate, because to satisfy the millennium goal, right? The millennium challenge. Do you think this is a serious effort that's going to yield some fruits here?
Unfortunately, no. I think when I came from Liberia, I spoke to you confidentially about this court going nowhere. And it began with a false start. The president has a cabinet. This is the president that has almost 50 years of experience. He said he brought people around him that are competent. They will have discussed this and said this is the path to go. It was a false start. Now, I read, when I listened to Front Page Africa, the president of the Liberian Bar Association said it was shocking that they have not, he found his name on the list or their name on the list, but the government have not gotten to them yet. And in addition to that, the term of reference. So all of these things have not been done. So here we go. By making this thing so large, by making the committee, if you want anything to die in committee, make the committee so huge that they can't even meet. And John Molu made it clear, one of his prominent advisors, he said, Joe Boakai is not serious about war crime court, it's not going to happen. And he gave some of the same reasons that I'm giving. He said, President Boakai wanted the war crime court. They're in American jurisprudence or administrative system, we have something called best practice. We have several courts that have worked, like the court that worked against Charles Taylor. There were no civil unions there. It was an international. What it did was, John Molu said he advised the president, just write the United Nations, giving them the authority to come and do this. They have the jurisdiction over the entire world. They can do this. All you have to do is write them. You don't have to do it. Say, and he turned around and did exactly what the best practice called for. So what we are doing here would be,
Mr. Gaiman, why should we listen to John Molu to advise on legal matters?
No, what we are saying here is he referencing best practices. We're looking at Charles Taylor's the case and the process that brought Charles Taylor to court is a case in point. Okay, the civilian government wrote the international, wrote the UN. do this for us, and it did it. So why don't we use the same format? It have been practiced, it have been used, it yield, and I use to me the expected outcome. So why do something else?
No, it's different, Mr. Gaiman, because these are two countries dealing with each other, not a country dealing with itself.
I don't know what that means, but to
Meaning
me,
Sierra Leone wanted to arrest Charles Taylor, who was a sitting president of a foreign country. They had to go to the international community. They themselves couldn't go arrest Charles Taylor in Liberia or arrest him in Nigeria. That's what I'm saying.
well, I disagree with that, but anyway, it's your opinion. You're entitled to it. I think in 21 days to have the ECOWAS, the African Union, to have Liberia, to have all these people come together to form a committee and give a decision within 21 days. It's 20 days already because 1 day has gone. So I don't know whether this is possible. The rush that Mr. Dukley was talking about is the same thing here. Within 21 days for these people to convene, to vet, because remember that they have to vet. And I don't know if you have ever done vetting to vet a regular employee. You gotta go through the local police, the sheriff, you gotta go to the FBI, you got level 1, level 2 vetting. And now you talk about on the scope of an international vetting within 21 days. I don't know whether that is feasible.
Thank you. Mr. Dukley.
Well, again, every time I talk to people about this war, you get a different sense of either bitterness or anguish, or and not forgetting the fact that the collective trauma that the nation of Liberia experienced. But I don't think that is an excuse for not being able to do things the proper way. And the proper way is one of which Brother Gamer just referenced now in a form of best practice. That could have been one alternative. But I think the fact that Joseph Boakai initiated this process to where it is now is commendable, because like you said earlier, Ellen didn't do it, and George Will had no interest in doing it. Now, and I think for the naysayers, people are basing this on how things have been done in the past. Because I remember Dr. Dukley saying on this particular platform here that the way he knows Liberia, he doesn't think this is going to go anywhere. But again, I beg to differ with all of that, simply because this one is going to be an international partnership with Liberia. And, also there's an incentive, because our mindset, the Liberian mindset, is such that as long as there's going to be money coming in from international donors and our bilateral international partners, maybe there's some money to be made there, even if not entirely for the purpose of bringing justice to Liberia. Some people might have other motivations otherwise, but I see this as a test where we need to prove to the international community that with the appropriate support we can do this. So, and like I said earlier, and Brother Kuyongba had just reinforced that notion. You see, in Liberia, the way we think, the way we carry ourselves, it's just so hard for us to be able to do things that other people can do with no problem, because nobody can say on this platform here today that I was not affected in one form or another as a result. Now, personally, for myself, I never saw the war. I never lived a day of the war in Liberia. I was never in Liberia, but I was still affected. I lost people, I lost family members, I lost, and so there has to come a moment where we have to accept the fact that there are things in our past we cannot change. We need to get past them and be able to bring justice to Liberians. So one of the ways of doing that is, like I was saying, Brother Selim was talking about the conflict of interest. in this case, I do not consider what he described as conflict. I do not consider it as conflict of interest, for which he should not, Councilor Jonathan should not be heading this committee that they're trying to establish. But that aside, if we want to use that line of argument, then there's actually going to be nobody in that land who is actually going to be without any perceived conflict of interest who can head that committee.
Councilor Gonglo, one can argue for him.
I mean, it may not be conflict of interest, but they will say, hey.
The mistake we're making is when it came to Donald Trump handling a classified document, the lawyer working on the case, he was in The Hague. He was working on cases in The Hague, and Merrick Garland brought him back from The Hague to come and head this case. Jack Smith, okay? So we're not just saying in the land. Are there not Liberian lawyers that are practicing around the world that can be invited to run this thing? Why are we trying to pitch our tent on one person? We're not saying he's not qualified. He already has.
Let's move on from this one. You know, he's there now. How do we move forward, Mr. Salif?
Yeah, the problem is, like you said, no term of reference. My mind, the way it's working right now is you just give committee to do something. Even the person that is in question, Mr. Massacre, we don't even know that the team could decide to also nominate him. And then the president decides to pick him. So then we go right back in the same cycle. So like I said, I don't know why the JMB administration has been in a hurry to do everything. They're not taking time to properly sit down and sift through things, brainstorm on things. Again, it's a failure from the get-go because every political party, serious political party in the country, is a government in waiting. So from the time the election was over and former president, we have made that call and said, I concede the election. They already should have started putting things in order to take over, but it looks like they took over and they were not ready to take over. And that's why the series of missteps, and now they are just trying to rush things through. They're not taking time to properly sit down, sift things through, and that you've just appointed a committee with no term of reference. So how are they supposed to do the work? Now then we go back to the same thing. So it's a problem.
Thank you.
It's a lack of competence.
Dr. Pearson, President, we have punted the ball to the legislature. President Salif was implicated, so she actually undermined the TRC report, and that's why it still has not recovered. President, we have punted the ball. Now President Boakai has the courage to set this up. If you were sitting with President Boakai right now on this issue, what would you tell him?
You know, Mr. Dennis, before I answer that question, I want to, I'm passionate about this thing because it's close to my heart, right? Let me clarify some things here. And, we're one of those who strongly refuted people who say that, use that generalization term and say everybody participated in the war, so people cannot be persecuted. Let it go. That's a lie. Yes. Everybody, that generalization is a false perception. Everybody did not participate in the war. And the other false perception, that they have is that other us got suffered by the war, other were impacted by the war. That's also a fallacy. The level of harm done to people in the war is a different degree. It is. How could
you possibly say that, doctor?
Listen, it is a different degree. You cannot tell me that because you sat in America and somebody in Liberia there were hurt, one of your family members were hurt, is equivalent to my sister who personally got raped in the war. You cannot tell me because you sat in America and somebody in Liberia got killed as a relative, and I stood there, opened my mother, pregnant woman's stomach, opened her stomach in front of me and took my sibling from there, and you say we hurt the scene. We don't hurt the scene. We should be sensitive to understand that there's a different level of hurt across the country. And we should not downplay the fact that everybody has a proportion of closure that they need to experience. So we shouldn't downplay this thing. So, Mr. Dennis, going to your question, I think, and I want to say this, I applaud the president's step, and I will tell him thank you for what he has just done, and for a good reason. Getting ECOWAS involved, getting civil society involved is a good step going forward. ECOWAS Community Court is a court of international jurisdiction. They have experience in prosecuting international cases of human rights abuse. and gross human rights abuse. So coming to help us now in this collaboration is going to make a difference. I think bringing civil society together that represent a broader spectrum of neutrality in our society also adds value to the process. So the president is going in the right course of direction. I think, Mr. Dennis, that the president is serious about this business, and we are only trying to help him to do the right thing by telling him, listen, when you make a wrong step, we'll let you know the wrong step, and we'll recommend to you the right step going forward. And so bringing these international bodies together, including our local body, Sierra Leone has an experience they can share with us. The West African Court has an experience they can share with us. I understand it. I don't know if you know this, Mr. Dennis, but the president did write the United Nations. He did write the Secretary General of the United Nations to come and give us assistance in this direction. So that's also something in the right direction. I will close by saying this. No, we don't have anything personal against a massacre. And we're saying that, listen, we want the process to go on in a way that at the end of the day, Mr. Boakai's effort will not go in vain. And let me say this, Mr. Dennis, Madam Ellen Johnson did not do this because our personally was told by international partners in a closed-door conference at the LU Master's Program for Peace and Conflict Studies. We were told that the time was not appropriate given the current situation in the country, that the excuse they gave us. Honor George Minor, he gave us an excuse. He said, Omio had just left, and the security situation in the country was not shared in Liberia, was assuming its own security. And it had not been tested to be proven that it can withstand a shock in an event. They started to go after people when Prince Johnson was still threatening war. If they were going to they would have gone after them. So
they give excuses.
Now we see it's appropriate, and there's the time. Then let the president do it. I think the president.
Are you saying their excuses were justified? Now is the best time. That's what you're saying.
I think on the what they call situational ethics, when you look at it, I can give them a pass here that there are circumstances under which some things are not feasible. None of our international partners found this feasible. I was told personally that President Boakai was told that he would not get funding if he didn't do it right. So probably that's the reason why he want to get it right now. So I support him as well.
I disagree with you that
Dr. Pearson, I think that view is very simplistic in my opinion. There was just not a political will to take on this task. Ellen did not have the political will to do it. Neither did George Weah have the political will. And I must add, I don't think anyone is dismissing the fact that there were people who were affected by this war. Yes, the degree of hurt might differ, but we all in Liberia, every Liberian suffered from the war. Everybody was affected in one way or another. And that's not in any way suggesting that you are downplaying or you are not. No. Far from it. Like I said to you, I did not see the war. I did not live a single day of the war in Liberia. I lost my brother, seen mother, seen father. I lost my grandmother. I can name countless family members who I lost, but I never fought it. The 13, 15 years of the war, I was never in Liberia. Does that mean my hurt is going to be any less because I wasn't there? No, I don't think anyone on this planet is saying that.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
Dennis,
you.
I'm sorry, Dennis. I know you want to move
on. I want to
move on.
Yeah, when it comes to this vetting, even the ECOWAS itself, being a part of the vetting team, it is preposterous because ECOWAS is not innocent. ECOWAS is a material witness. If we really start to prosecute this case, ECOWAS is a material witness. ECOWAS also led to so many hurts. ECOWAS supplied arms to other rebel groups. ECOWAS, it was in their presence that Samuel Doe was arrested and mutilated. ECOWAS is also a material witness. So you're telling me the person that is a material witness in the case is also the one that would go and vet who should head the case? That also is a conflict of interest. Let us be serious with this thing if we really want closure.
Mr. John.
Let's go and then Anthony.
Even though I didn't.
Right. All right. Like Dr. Pearson was saying, right? I mean, I'm sure most people know on the show, like, I'm a son of Grand Jude County. In that same vein, we understand our people, carry a lot of atrocities. And atrocity was also meted out against our people. So when it comes to ethnic groups, I think there were, 3 or 4 ethnic groups that really suffered in this war. But it doesn't negate the fact that all Liberians or people from all ethnic groups were impacted by the war. So I think Dr. Peterson, to just try to say that some people was hurt more and thereby they deserve justice more, or they are seeking justice, more, I don't think it's a fair point
He
to
didn't
make.
say that. He didn't say they deserve justice more. I didn't hear that.
And let me get to this point with the committee, right? I think we don't have to we don't have to reinvent the wheel. I think the closest thing to us when it comes to war and economic or just war crimes court is Rwanda, because their conflict was predicated on a similar, a way that our conflict when, and that is based on ethnic groups. You had the Tutsi and the Hutus, and similar to our war, even though it wasn't 100% based on ethnicity, but definitely a large part of it was. So maybe we can learn from Rwanda. We can send people there to study how they did their courts, talk to some of the judges and the lawyers, and learn. I mean, I don't see any other research that's going on, with this whole court. It's just the formulation of it, and now we're already 7 months into this government. Maybe by the time the court actually get established, it'll be like 4 or 5 years into this government, and I think they need to hit the ground running. But ultimately, I would disagree with that, Mr. Duglett, by saying that Mr. Massaquoi should be on the court, and the fact that he represented other people is not an issue for the president. Obviously, who has the ultimate decision, he agrees with that sentiment, because he's not removing him from there because he's not a good lawyer. He's removing him. Mr. Johnson, he's not removing him, but I believe he's removing him because the conflict of interest or the appearance of impropriety seems to be weighing heavily on the public. So the president listened, and he decided that maybe it would be best and best for transparency and for fairness that somebody come there who is less tinted. And I will put my hand up and say, consider Councilor Gongo. I think his human rights record is stellar, and he's somebody who can be impartial on this issue. He's not going to represent anybody in court, but I think administratively and just purely based on the rule of law and human dignity and human rights, he would be the best fit. And I think President Boakai needs to consider him, or the committee needs to consider him. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Kwangba, you conclude on this case.
Oh, well, I would just say I think everyone has made a very good point. I hope and pray the president will do the right thing, will do it right, so that finally this thing can come, and whoever has to go where to account for, the role to play will be done, so that people can finally move on. Because I tell you what, there are people that are seriously hurting in our country, Jai. Let me be honest with you. All right? People lost people dear to their hearts, right? And the fact that all these years have come and gone, and they feel that there's a need, they have some closure. They are very important Liberian, like all of us. I lost a lot of family members in this war. Like my brother from Grand Judah said, I'm from Nimba County. Of course, the name says it all, right? And so It's important that Samuel Kanyando Jr. is my very good friend. He's in London. I will be meeting him next month in Liberia when I go back, okay? But it is important that Liberians bring this thing to an end once and for all. So on that note, I agree with the president, and I hope that they do it right. I hope the committee here will not be, like we started the show, you said committee. One way to delay things in Liberia, based on my experience there, that to establish a committee, you will go for that committee meeting and eat all the jollof rice there. Sometimes the thing you will talk about, that thing you're talking only 25 minutes. All the other 2 hours you're spending there, that different thing you will be on. I hope it wouldn't be one of those, so that finally we can bring this to a closure in Liberia.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you are just joining us, this is Friday Night Debate. The second issue here is the president names the Road Maintenance, Rehabilitation, and Finance Committee. In an effort to achieve the objective of the road pillar of arrest agenda, President Joseph Newman Boakai Sr. has appointed the Road Maintenance, Rehabilitation, and Financing Committee. The committee is expected to assess the challenge of road network, engage partners, and identify resources, including funding for the building, maintenance, and rehabilitation of roads in the country. Members of the committee are Honorable Jeremiah Pankon, Vice President, the Ministry of Finance and Development Planning member, Public Works member, Agriculture member, State for Presidential Affairs member, National Investment Commission member, General Services Agency member, and the Public Procurement and Concession Committee member. Mr. Kwangba, I want to start with you. You are the highest ranking man when it comes to government. How you been doing?
Look, I think I've been following Clarence. I think Clarence, you were on the closing argument the other day, right?
Yes, I was. Yes, I
Yeah, I
was.
follow you. You made a brilliant presentation. And I thought the angle you took it from was very good when we were talking about these things from central bank or something like that. Now we have the National Road Fund, all right, and I'm sure that National Road Fund also has some on a committee they call the interministerial steering committee too. I'm sure that National Road Fund there has a responsibility, and I stand to be corrected, similar to this committee's responsibility, because I think on the e-mansion website, this committee responsibility to say the committee will assess the challenges of road networks, engage partners, and identify resources, including funding for what you call it, funding for building roads and bridges in the country. The president is the president. The president has the constitutional authority to constitute committees. But if we already have a committee, we already have an entity of government that is doing this work, why do we establish another committee? Is it that the committee that is already there is not functioning properly? That's a question that the president will answer. But all I can say at the end of the day is, if the president believes that committee that's already there is not functioning properly, it is in his power to establish a committee that we hope will start building all the sizzling highway in Liberia. Okay, but for me, there's already a committee without road fund office. Okay,
and let me read that committee for you. That's the National Road Fund Act of 2016.
Yes.
The purpose of this act is to establish one, a national road fund for the purpose of financing road and bridge maintenance works and directly associated planning, programming, and management activities. Two, the governance and oversight of the road fund, including the approval of the annual road maintenance expenditure program submitted by agencies authorized to undertake road and bridge work in Liberia. And three, an administrative structure that is capable of undertaking the core function associated with collecting, managing, and disbursing funds to and on behalf of agencies authorized to undertake road and bridge works in Liberia. That's the act.
And if you go further, it also tells you that the National Road Fund will also look for money internally and externally. That responsibility is also with the road fund. And the road fund has that steering committee, interministerial steering committee. Okay. If you go and look up that committee, I don't know if it will be different from the committee that, our president has established, except that he has added now the vice president to that committee, who is going to be serving as the chairman of that committee. So I hope at the end of the day, in the president's wisdom, this will lead to the construction of good bridges in the country and a lot of fantastic roads in our country. But I don't know why we're having another committee.
Right.
Mr. Dugley, the president had the rights committee. Remember that?
Yes.
And now we have the road committee. We have public works. All these people are in it, right? And then we have the National Road Fund. I just read to you the act. What do you think the president is trying to accomplish here?
And I don't think he is going to accomplish what he wished to accomplish. This is just another layer of bureaucracy that is going to be created that's going to lead nowhere. There is already the mechanism in place that, in my opinion, that can still come up with the objectives that the president wished to achieve from creating this committee. In fact, I think the interministerial committee that Brother Kwemba just referenced, that committee is, in my opinion, is robust, and it can, if they actually function properly, they should be able to yield some positive outcome. And I know, politically speaking, this is all. I mean, having a vice president to chair this proposed committee is just to show that maybe he's serious. But in the end, I was when I read this thing today, I remember very clearly when in the 80s when someone came to talk about Gunter Harper Highway, and they had this lady, they had Olivia Shannon, some promotion they were doing on TV, and Olivia Shannon was leading that effort. And then shortly thereafter, they had a committee. Then it's in the history of our country, these committees in the end don't really achieve much, especially when it comes to the rural projects and the way President Joseph Boakai tried to prioritize the roads. I don't think he needs. I mean, there are few positive steps that have been taken. We saw some yellow machines, plying the roads, trying to. We saw all those things. Those things were all positive in themselves. But what do you need a committee to do? What that the ministerial council that is there cannot do? What is it? Now, and who is going to be part of that committee? Where are they going to be from? Are they going to be from various ministries? Are they going to be from the Ministry of Public Works? I mean, the whole thing is the shenanigan.
List of the ministries that are part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So is that going to supersede the ministerial committee that exists right now? I mean, the whole thing.
I think I think the vice president, who is serving as the chairman now, might assume the role of the road fund office manager. I don't know.
I mean, look, the whole exercise is in my opinion, the whole exercise is a futile effort. I mean,
a little more on the road fund, right? There is hereby established a national road fund, which shall comprise monies raised through appropriation approved by the government, grants and loans arranged by government to undertake specific works, road user charges as defined in this act. And the road fund anyway, let me read on. The use of the fund. All funds of the National Road Fund shall be held in the fund account and all that. The objective of the road fund to ensure that road assets are sustained and that sufficient funds for both periodic routine maintenance are allocated for this purpose. So what really do you think is the difference between this one, the road fund, and this road maintenance, or Mr. Salif? What do you think the difference is?
This is just
one for yellow machine and the other one for
this is just one of the shenanigans of the president. Okay, it's just one of those shenanigans. The thing is, what is the vice president going to do? Assume the role of the minister of public works, or I think there's an agency now for urban development. I mean, what are they going to do? Is this how our neighbors in Guinea, in Africa, in Sierra Leone, is that how they built roads in Ghana and other places? It's just when somebody is stuck and doesn't know what to do, then you have to pretend to be doing something by just keep creating more committees and just flood the zone and create confusion. That's all that I see. You have the Minister of Foreign Public Works. If they are not doing their job, let them be fired and put in somebody that can do the job. The answer to rehabilitating roads, I mean, this is 2024. We're not even building roads. We're just rehabilitating earth road, dirt road. That's what we're doing in 2024, when every other country around us is moving ahead, paving super highways. This is where we are as Liberians to be debating on maintaining road in the dry season, and then in the rainy season we can drive on it. So we need a committee for that one, and then we spend more money on that other committee. If you appoint people, the public works minister, if they're not doing their job, remove him, fire him, put somebody that can do the job and hold them accountable. The answer to it is not setting up. Okay, so this new committee, if this new committee also fails, he will set up another committee to take place. I mean, it just don't make no sense. As far as I'm concerned, I think JMB is inept. The Liberian people were duped. They were deceived. They say, oh, this man got over 40 years of public service experience. What I have witnessed in these 7 months, it tells me my conclusion, JMB is inept. He is completely inept. That's why he's doing all these things.
I disagree with that statement. You know, I think this is a ploy to double dip. I think we know how Liberian government work. You know, you have a guy who is in one position, like Amara Corner, the poster boy for that. He was the finance minister, was serving as a consultant, you know, at Nukau, and was getting paid from both jobs. And I'm sure the vice president and these other ministers are probably going to be getting paid from this job.
That's
so
a form of corruption. That also
yeah, it's a form of corruption, but again, it's not ineptitude. It's probably more trying to be shrewd and trying to, you know, double dip, you know, by putting people from one ministry into another ministry, serving as a consultant or some kind of, you know, a board director or something to give them more money. But like everybody is saying, the issue here is not about if we can build roads. If we want to learn how to build roads, if it seems like we don't know how to build roads, send people out there, the engineers, the civil engineers, to go out there and learn how to do it and how to maintain it. You don't put Jeremiah Kuhn, who is a businessman and a vice president. What does he know about roads? Is he an adept administrator to, you know, that he's going to make sure the roads get built and he's going to be on top of these people like a hawk? Of course not. So, like you said, it's just probably double dipping, giving them more ways to get money legally because it's in the budget and they're on this committee officially and they're supposed to be getting paid a stipend every month. It doesn't make sense, like you said. I would agree with that, but I don't think the president is inept. I think they're just being shrewd here. That's what it is.
So, Evans, what do you think the function of the road fund will be at this point?
Look, I think you said something there, but you kind of skip over it. And Liberian people need to get along with this idea. You have to put tolls on these roads. People have to pay to drive on these roads and use that fund and put it into the road funds to build more roads, or even to maintain that same road that people drive on all the time. So Elvis, I think toll booths.
Are you kidding me? Which road you putting tolls on?
I mean, even the Robert P. Highway road that people can use all the time. International people, foreigners, put tolls on those roads. That's how people, you know, generate money. We see it in the United States. In big cities like New York, when you're coming from New York to New Jersey, you know how many tolls you pay? You pay a lot of tolls. And what do you think those monies are used for? To maintain those roads. So I think they have to put tolls. Yeah, go ahead, Mr. John.
Mr. Morris, is the road fund and this road maintenance, are these not duplicating functions?
That's what I said. The whole committee is a ploy to give these guys extra money. But I think he can formulate a way to add more money into the road funds now that he's going to be the president who is going to be, you know, for accountability and make sure that people don't steal. Take over the road fund, watch it like a hawk, but also implement tolls on the road so that you can generate more funds into that road fund, and then it allows you to expand your road building reach. You can build more roads. So I think people travel from, let's say, from Nima to Monrovia or from Ganta to Monrovia. Put a toll on that road from Banga to, you know, put a toll on those major roads and generate more funds. Like people will complain about it, but explain to them this policy is going to help us generate more money so that we can build more roads in other places. Our foreign partners are going to help us, but this is a way for us to raise more money domestically to bolster up our road fund. I mean, these are simple things that the president can do, and the Liberian people may complain, but that's how we do things in this country. We tax people in this country in order for government to work, and we need to do that.
I understand.
Hold on, Mr. Salif, because so you are saying the issue is money because they had a road fund which you were taxing from gas, right? And you know what went on with this whole thing with I think the issue went to court. I don't remember, but
Musa Belete and some other people, yeah,
and other people were involved, right? So that was the road fund. So the question our friend Flomo is raising now is, hey, the same national road fund that people ate the money, you know, look at the GSC report. So are we now trying to say, okay, since they ate the money, or since the road fund, now we're going to set up a new one?
No.
Yeah. Mr. John and panelists here, I think Pastor Salif used the word incompetent. I think he's right on point.
You're using the same word on we are now using the word on. Is that all you know now? Incompetent?
Listen.
No, he used the word inept. It means the same thing anyway.
Listen. The definition of competence is doing something effectively and being successful at it. If you can put those two words together and say Joseph Boakai has been very successful and efficient in what he has been doing, then he's competent. But let's go back to what you were talking about here. When our friend Mr. Yimpan was at Public Works, at one time I called because there was a discrepancy between what he did there and what the security advisor, what his name to President, National Security Advisor to President Boakai, when he was Minister of
Kofi Woods.
When he was minister there. And what they told me was very simple. The Ministry of Ministry of Public Works is the highest entity of construction, road maintenance, surveying, designing, construction, supervising construction, contract, and the maintenance of road, bridges, and public building in the nation. So if you want to leave an agency or ministry that has the responsibility to do all of these things and the expertise, then you form a committee and you put this ministry on that committee. And you say this is a constitutionally constituted committee, a ministry within that the nation, the highest. Then you form a committee and you put the constitutionally constituted mandated agency on us another. Oh Lord, I've never seen.
That's the ineptitude we're talking about, Gibbon. That's the ineptitude we're talking about. And you brought me to that point, okay? There are two words that to be competent, there are two words. It's effective and efficient. To be effective is to find the right thing to do, to know the right thing to do. To be efficient is to know the right way to do it. So if you don't know the right thing to do, you don't know the right way to do it, you're not effective, you're not efficient, you're not competent. Mr. Morris said, oh yeah, I think he's just double dipping, people take money. That's what makes it incompetent. If you are going to bring an agency that Public Works will work under, when Public Works, that is their sole responsibility, and you putting them under this agency, you just don't know what you're doing. Two, if you are going to make the vice president the head of that committee, does he have a degree in civil engineering? Does he have a degree expertise in engineering? Why is he heading such committee? Are there not engineers that you could bring to head? It's a lack of competence. It's just a sign of ineptitude. That's all I'm saying. JMB deceived the Liberian people to say he have 40 years of civil servant experience. These 7 years have proved otherwise. He doesn't know what he's doing.
You made a strong point there. I'll give you that.
Mr. Salif, election have consequences. So
it's true. It's true. It's true.
Dr. Pearson, I was working with one of the general on the Liberian Army. We were working together in Pennsylvania, and he said, anytime we drive through the toll bush, he said, my son, I never knew there's something called toll. We used to say when you to Salala Gate, you can't even touch your check. Because they had extorting money for the people. The underlying problem here is that to fix our road issue, do we really understand what the issues are? Is the issue money? Is the issue machines? Why do we continuously have this issue with roads? So from what I'm hearing, from what I'm saying, is like, okay, let's have a committee that will manage this. We've seen the rights committee. Do you know what came out of that rights committee? Whether they are working? And now we have this committee, which I think, if I really want to guess, is the Yellow Machine Committee. Right. The constitution of this committee, what does it tell you about the strategy or the approach? Because they say this is to address the role pillar in arrest. What do you think the president is after here?
Mr. Dennis, this is no matter where Mr. Sadiq will smile when I would take the conversation one step further by saying President Boakai is not just incompetent and lack leadership. Mr. Boakai has nothing to show for 40 years of living and working on public money to show that the level of leadership that is required today in the 21st century is under his belt. It is not there. Now, let me tell you why some of the things are on this particular issue. Do you remember when we had an argument? I was in Liberia at the time. We had an argument about annoying, notifying the entire Ministry of Development Planning and putting it under the Ministry of Finance.
Finance, yeah.
Some of us argued that, listen, development planning is very strategic for the nations going forward. It has to stand alone, or the best place you can put it is under Ministry of Internal Affairs. Meaning by doing that alone, you decentralize development in the country. Amara Conan, my good friend, and others said that was not correct because he foresaw you were going to Ministry of Finance, and so he will put everything on a belt coming from the Ministry of Development and Planning.
Planning.
Today, planning ministry, today planning ministry is totally dead. Planning in our whole Ministry of Finance, planning is dead. Today is dead. Now we let go back. Why did the road fund was established? They established the road fund with the idea that there has to be certain focus only on road and development of roads in the country. So the National Road Fund developed. Another argument proffer at the time. We argued this. We said the road fund should only be focused on generating resources but not expending it. Because looking at the corruption level in Liberia, if the guys didn't generate the money and be responsible to spend it, who oversees them? Who check and balance them? Ministry of Public Work is clogged with the constitutional responsibility to take care of all public work, roads, and my brother gave me everything that it's supposed to do. Why do you still put all of the responsibility on a national road fund when their name alone tell you road fund, meaning that they have to generate resources? Because they generated resources, should they be the one to spend the money as well? Now we have conflict. Public Work Minister accusing road fund for eating money. Corruption is high. Our issue here is it's lack of leadership, Mr. And let me tell you something. My brother Evans made a point about putting issue about the toll. Does he even understand our transportation system in our country? You know how many times a Tesla driver run between Habel and Pinsville, or run between Monrovia to Buchanan? You know how many times Tesla driver run between Monrovia to Ganta and come back in one day time? You know how many times private car move back and forth and flip around? So in America, we all own individual vehicles. When we travel one way, maybe once in a week, or maybe twice in a week. It doesn't work that after like that. You're only going to increase the hardship on the ordinary people. So I'm not against putting two on the road. Maybe we put a coastal highway other than the local roads. I agree. Then put a two on the coastal highway. It becomes an option, but not on our mini pliable roads that is constantly used every day. We had to pay people on time. How do we pay too?
Right. People don't even and let us not go. Let us not go there. Let us not be the couple. They were passing. They saw the trail of the animal, and they said, "I will set wire. I will set trap here. When we kill any animal, I tell you, I will buy the bed. I will buy the bedding and put it in the stranger room." I think
my best advice here is that look, that whole committee should be scrapped.
Let me feel the parable that appears in
I wanted to hear the end of that parable.
We're talking about 2 years when we don't even have the road.
That's what I'm saying. Which road you put in the toll?
Paga Pinto Ganta is a nice road. You can put a toll on that road. It's well traveled too.
You can build a coastal highway. You can build a coastal highway and put a toll there. You can build a coastal. You can build a highway.
Let us not go to this where we should put it to because we don't have the road yet.
Look, Dennis.
Yeah.
This whole notion of road committee, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, I've been fortunate enough to have been to some of the developing countries in Africa, but notably in North Africa. And I don't know if anyone on this panel know of any country on the continent that has toll system. I don't know if anybody on this panel know. Let me know.
Yes. One country in Africa that had an efficient toll system was Nigeria. Even Nigeria got rid of
And
it.
Ghana too.
Because the reason they got rid of it
I
is
saw the toll in Ghana on
it's
the
a
bridges.
recipe for
Anytime
corruption.
you cross the bridge.
It's a recipe for corruption. Nigeria got to get
Yeah.
they got rid of their toll because people were collecting the money from the toll and they're not remitting it to. I have a friend. He had just finished college. He went to do NYSC. They sent him to one of the toll. He was just packing the money in. Nobody paying anything to government. So the money is not going to get to government.
As I learned, there was a toll one time in Liberia. So you were assigned somebody there. The police will assign somebody there, and all that money they reported to you.
I guess. Then my point here is, if you introduce, like you said, to begin with, we don't even have the road to put the toll on anyway. So that just one element of another corruption we're going to be talking about. Like you were talking about, Nigeria had to abolish it because they could not manage it efficiently. So, I mean, you don't need a committee to run this road. Even all this ministerial, we'll have Ministry of Public Works. The Ministry of Public Works, by our constitution, is the ministry, is the government department that is responsible for the construction, for the maintenance of roads and other infrastructure in our country. So
they have moved that to a regulatory body now.
Yeah. So you know what? The Ministry of Public Works should have all the requisite knowledge, all the requisite requirements in order for that department to function properly. This notion of having all this committee here, that committee there, is just show to me our inability to be efficient. Because look, when you look at this, let's say if you go to I'll give you the example of where I'm very familiar. If you go to Egypt, Minister of Public Works, in that Ministry of Public Works, they have engineers who are specialists in building roads. They have engineers who are specialized in building bridges, maintaining. So the technical know-how is all within that Ministry of Public Works, where every specialty area responsible for certain areas. So I don't know why is Liberia any different from all those places. You know, so it just gives you, you know, you want to give up on Liberia because these are things that we shouldn't even be talking about.
Well, the difference is we don't have a plethora of civil engineers who are working in the public sector. That's the difference.
Yeah, but then that's a fault of government. That's why you give scholarship. You give scholarship to young people to go and come back. So
you know,
those things are not there.
Listen, we got another panel coming. Go ahead.
Brother Salif, let me tell you this. I was once a beneficiary of Liberian, scholarship overseas. But I can tell you, and any other person who has benefited from Liberian scholarship, bilateral scholarship, or whatever scholarship, even that, they can't manage it properly. They could not manage it properly. And as a result, I remember my peers, some of whom were in final years in marine engineering, mechanical engineering, you name it, they were all kicked out of their programs because Liberia could not keep its part of the bargain. So as a result, these young talent Liberian men and women were wasted as a result. So for scholarship, I mean, they will tell you, nowhere in the world that Liberia has international students and Liberia has been able to maintain that scholarship for the students.
One of the scholarships they gave, the students were still on the flight, flying to the States when they had canceled the scholarship in Liberia. They landed in America, they had to find their own way. So that is
Thank you. And maybe because even this engineering, all these courses are not attractive in Liberia, right? Because see, with all my qualification, I still can get superintendent job, right?
Yeah.
So the only place you get is if you are a politician. So politicians are the billionaires in the country. So even if you learn civil engineering, you either go into the house or be a senator. That's the only way you make money. So there's a whole lot of things. But let me welcome our viewers too to call in if you want to be part of the conversation. 605-313-6004. The code is 791-403#.
Dennis, just for clarity on something, I did travel through toll booth in Morocco. They got toll in Morocco on the new highways they're building. And South Africa got another very strong toll system. They call the major routes N1, N2, I think up to N4. Very beautiful roads, and they put toll on it.
Yeah, I saw that when I was going to Pretoria in South Africa from Johannesburg.
Let me tell you, tolls are beautiful on fine highway, not on dusty road.
Yeah, we got asphalt road like bro, we put toes there. We gotta raise money. We gotta raise money.
That kind of super highway.
Everyone put it, so nobody will account for that money.
That kind of super highway we get from.
Well, you get it. The main for the corruption. Sorry.
Yeah, let me bring in my colors now. Let me bring in colors here. Flomo Livingston, you are number one. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mr. Jack. Thank you for the show again. Like bro, people will come on the show, get all the ideas. I listen to all the great ideas that people are saying on the platform today. I bet you, if given that same power today, someone would do the same thing that people are in power today, or even do worse. I wish we are good at. When you didn't party with them for 12 years. CDC was crying, we don't know how to run the government. When they came in power, we know what they did. They see roll fund today, you guys talking about Simon 12 when took $25 million from there to go pay salary. Is that what roll fund should be for? What happened to Simon 12? Nothing came from in it. And you're talking about roll fund institution. Look, people who are in that position are held responsible to make sure that institution functions correctly. Don't blame the president.
No.
He work today.
So he can. Should he dissolve the road fund and set up a new one, or while the road fund is there, he should set up another road fund? Is that what you're saying?
Look, for me, I think he should dissolve it. I don't know if it's a turning position. I don't know about that. But I think he should dissolve it. They should dissolve that whole road fund.
But it's not dissolved. Why is not dissolved? Why the president setting up another one?
I said maybe it's a turning position. I don't know. I think that the legislature passed or something like that.
It's an act. So why? Oh, okay. Yeah. So that's the law, right? So why is he not working with it?
Well, I don't think Mr. John, I don't think he can just dissolve it though. I don't think he has the authority to do that.
And what you make of the Rights Committee? Do you know what the Rights Committee doing now?
Yeah. The Rights Committee they did some improvement. For example, like instead of they have few people who only have the authority to bring rest in Liberia. Now they dissolve that, like they open it like an open market.
And do you need a Rights Committee to do that? Oh, and Flomo, anyway, let me let you go to your point. Do you think we need gas committee too?
Mr. John, my point I'm trying to say is people always trying to blame the leader. I think we should try to blame ourselves because even in the United States where you work, whatever job you're doing, when you do mistake, they don't go and blame the CEO or the manager whatsoever for what you did. They blame you for what you did. And that's what we should be doing.
So
that's the only way
the reason they blame me, even my reporters in Liberia, when they post something and the English is not correct, they call me. They say, when they made typo, they call me, they blame me because I'm supposed to make sure they are trained. And if they are not doing it, I'm supposed to fire them. So if you're not doing it, they blame you.
Why
but
is President
you
Trump
think we're going to have gas committee and maybe chicken
LEC committee too. LEC.
No, I don't. For me, I don't think that is necessary, Mr. Jai.
Right, because we have public works now. We have road committee. We have agriculture. We have rice committee, and that's not the only. And gas is another essential product. So we have gas committee, and now there is monkeypox. We may have monkeypox committee.
Public works should be responsible to do that. That way, at least the focus will be there. Look, let me come to the war plan called Mr. Jah. Look, to find someone with clean lawyer in Liberia will be difficult. Alvin Murray said Mr. Gongolo. You know what Prince Johnson will say about Mr. Gongolo? Prince Johnson will say he will not get a fair judgment because of what Mr. Gongolo keeps saying about him. So what will you say during the time when you find guilty, you say you need to get a fair judgment because Mr. Gongolo has already said that conviction towards Prince Johnson. So you can't choose Mr. Gongolo. It will not be fair.
What's about Councilor Nibali Warner, the former
Nibali Warner.
I don't know. I don't know his history. I don't know. Maybe he's good or not. I don't know. But
Yeah.
for
So
me, it would not be
why I
president,
said
Mr.
that we shouldn't say there's no clean person. You know.
No, for me, you will not find perfect president, Mr.
No, I'm not saying perfect, but I mean relatively. You know. Okay, but thank you.
Yeah, let me just end. Look, my problem is, look, LeBron, we have to trust at least. Let the system work. We can't say the thing will be perfect. It will not be perfect. And then president that come, all the guys that are on the show today, you make them president. Trust me, all the street system you're talking, it will not work. Unless we, the human being ourselves, can have that mindset to transform the country, it will not work. Thank you.
Dennis, please ask this caller if what we are discussing here is wrong for the benefit of our country.
I didn't mean gone.
Let me bring in Mr. Hassan Kone. Mr. Kone, you're live.
Yeah, Dennis, thank you for the show and how you call it, and thanks to your panelists again. Great show tonight. Listen, what Flomo just talked about a lot of things and stuff. He went on a whole rampage, but I'm gonna just say this quickly, Dennis. Right? Mm-hmm. You see, Liberians, I'm gonna say this. One of the things we're dishonest, right? That's one of the examples that Flomo just displayed. He is dishonest. Now he wants to trust the system so the system can work, and so because he likes the government because he's from Lofa.
Don't say the quiet part out loud.
How you know Flomo could come from Bongo, almost a lot of.
You had to name it Flomo.
Flomo from 4 out of it.
Flomo now, this is the thing, we are dishonest with ourselves, right? So until we get to that as a nation, like until the vast majority of us get to start to be honest, we're always going to go down this rabbit hole where what people are going to try to reinterpret things or try to make excuses when the star is doing horrible wrong. I said this thing when it comes to Boakai again. There's such thing as bad experience. If you come from a system that is, let's say you go to prison. If you spend 40 years in that prison, most of the things you're going to know also is going to be how things work in that prison. And that's exactly what Boakai is displaying. 40 years in government, he only displaying exactly what he knows. He don't know anything outside Liberia. And that's why we're caught in this circle and stuff like that. One of the questions I want to ask again, and this is bigger than just Liberia, is it like, are we incapable, like Black sub-Saharan Africans? Is it something that's in us that we are incapable of, like being able to govern ourselves, right? They just talk about a rule, right? And they say rule, it was corrupt in Nigeria and in Ghana. So, but when you look in the northern part of Africa, they're doing well. Egypt is doing pretty well. Morocco is doing pretty well, right? But all the other countries, like in the southern part of Africa, they're doing well and stuff like that. But they still have like the hands of colonialism and stuff like that at work in those systems and stuff. And they talk about road again. Let's go back to the road thing. What road, Dennis? The road that they made is going to be driving on the opposite side in the 10 lanes.
Coming.
We haven't even fixed that. All right. Nobody even come up to say, you know what, this was wrong. We have to fix it. Let's get rid of this law. Right? It's still on the books as we speak right now.
Thank you.
And we talk about moving forward. Like the last time you said, we can't even stay in line. And then we talk about all the DB thing. All the thing is too big for us. Let's do the easiest, small thing. Let's stay in line first. Let's get rid of the tail lane. Right? And then let's start looking outside of Liberia. We got people like coming that work outside of that system. All the people in Liberia, they only know Liberia. They don't know nothing outside of Liberia. See somebody like all these people that work outside of the system, I see, it's like you're standing in the future looking at people in the past, but when you go tell them you're doing something wrong, they say, oh, what do you know?
Thank you.
We that in the future that looking at what people live in the past, we have to make that correction, and coming is the one. I will keep saying this, all right, Dennis.
Yeah, and you don't even have the courtesy to recommend me. You recommend you think coming one wrong again?
Oh no, I support you.
Yeah, even superintendent, you're not lobbying for me.
but Dennis, before you get another caller, right? Before you get another caller, I just wanted to say something, right?
People from the diaspora to actually get involved.
Yeah.
Involved in the Liberian politics.
Thank you. Let me bring up Mr. Calabo Gonglo.
Okay.
The statistician, Mr. Gonglo, you're live.
Thank you. Great show. I was really not going to make point on this show tonight until I listened to Flomo.
Oh God.
Who I believe he lives in a sea of contradiction. You know, but I'll just make a passing comment on Fromo Livingstone logic. Fromo logic is that the perception of the alleged perpetrator is more important than the perception of the victims. You know, the number of people who are victims in Liberia or who were victimized are more than the perpetrators. So Fromo say, in choosing who should lead this process, we should make sure that the alleged perpetrators are satisfied with that person. So if you have someone that is fear that is going to be scrupulous and brutally honest and frank, the perpetrator will say, we don't want that person. So tonight, Fromo Livingstone is in Prince Johnson corner. But I'm not surprised at Fromo Livingstone. So I will leave it as that, but I think the listener will judge him. I just want to repeat my argument with FOL tonight. I got in the middle of the show, but I know you guys have probably discussed it on previous show. There is a consultant or coach expert. FOL has a democracy consultant called Josiah Joker. I am calling on FOL tonight to publicly remove the title of
Mr. Gogo, come on, man.
in Liberia. In the performance of his duty, he has decided to fight against constitutionally protected speech. And FOL, as a media institution, cannot be silent on that. We, the listener, we are calling on FOL to take a stand here because Josiah Joker has decided to violate free speech rights of Liberians. That's my point.
The man relinquished that position a long time.
We'll invite Mr. Jokai to explain why. Yesterday, we interviewed two of those who were dismissed. And so we want to hear from the DG as to what's going on, why he took the steps that he did. Let me bring on Mr. Michael Patmo. Mr. Patmo, you're live.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dennis. Thanks for the show. So I see a lot, I've listened to a lot of back and forth concerning, the issues of Liberia and the approach we have taken. And I share a lot of sentiments. Our president, who has spent many decades in government, knows only government, and government is bureaucracy. And so that will always be his approach. We need to make another committee. We need to form another group, instead, and that it never solves the problem. Okay? I don't believe that Liberia's problem is that we don't have the resources. I believe the resources are always just misplaced. We can find money to host the president anniversary. We can find money to host the first lady birthday party. We're about to find money to purchase brand new vehicles for 103 lawmakers. When the inauguration was coming, the now Minister of State for Presidential Affairs found money to purchase vehicles. When it's things that they really want, they find money. But when it's time to fix schools, hospitals, the only answer is we don't have money. I learned a few days ago that the entire budget, the annual budget of the NCSS school system is 4.2 million. 4.2 million. Out of that budget, 3.9 is on salaries.
Right.
That leaves $300,000.
Let me remind you, McGill office use more stationery than the entire MCSS when McGill was there.
Exactly.
Stationery. I don't know what McGill can write.
The entire MCSS budget, minus salaries, Compare that to the speaker's budget. One speaker, an entire school system. So, but we'll find the money for the speaker budget. That money will be there.
I think internet for MCSA was 1,200 for internet, and they're supposed to go to the lab.
Now I hear that the president is supposed to be traveling again to the U.S. I bet you it's probably going to be around that much.
I have my ticket already. It's coming to Atlanta.
Okay. If you look at how many even spent on that party, they probably spent almost 100 or 200,000 on the party. But they can find money for those things that they want. But when they say let's find money for the schools, so what we getting? It's misplaced priorities.
Thank you.
Until we find a leader that's serious enough to sit down and say, no, we're going to put the money where the money needs to go. That's where our development will come from. That's where our growth will come from. And that's where our progress will come from. It will not come from another committee, because that committee has to be salaried. That committee needs logistics. So you got to find office for that committee. You got to find vehicles for that committee. You got to find, and each one of those people got to have assistant. They got to have office boy. They got to have receptionist. They got to have secretary. You just creating another bureaucracy. And unfortunately, like people, they haven't been able to figure out that. I will agree with you and many other people. It boils down to leadership. Leadership. But thank you so much for the time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, some people, that's why they don't even make the laws that will hold themselves accountable. When I ask one of them, they say only a child will cut a switch for you to beat them. A child will cut their own switch. But so they will not even make laws. They will not even say stuff that are going to make them be responsible. So as we talk about two issues tonight. Our friend Sam Waller always interested in the solution, but they don't want to pay us for providing solution, but we will still do it. How do we move on? And this is where I want us to close tonight. How do we move on with, we have the war crimes court issue we talk about, and we also have the road committee. I don't want to see, chicken feed committee when chicken feed is, we low on chicken feed in the country, because it looks like that way we go. But let's go around the room as we close. The way forward. Dr. Pearson, you start.
Thank you, Mr. Dennis, and thanks to my esteemed panelists for tonight, and thanks to our viewers and listeners out there. My son is also on our live tonight. I want to say thank you for coming on, son. And my good friend Eddie is on there as well. Guys, thank you for being there. Mr. Dennis, I'm passionate about that whole war crimes court stuff, and I'm appreciative to President Boakai, though he did it unwillingly, but at least he's course corrected, and we're looking forward to us achieving some positive results with the support from our international friends who have given us some level of confidence in the back that this thing is going to work. So we believe in them, not President Boakai as a person, but we believe in those that are pushing from the back. And I want to say thanks to President Boakai for at least having the political will and to give in to the push, because he may choose not to give in to the push like others may have done. So I want to thank him for that. I want to the last caller says something, I want to close on that too, when he says we can find money when we want to do other things. We want to steal or want to fatten our own pockets and give ourselves good rides and good homes. We know where to steal the money from and fatten ourselves. But when it comes to putting the money where it needs to go, we find problem with that. And I think setting up another committee again, just another way of wasting time with that road project stuff. If the road fund is there to do the job, we got a full office. That road fund is a full office with full staff. They should do the work. Public work is a whole ministry, fully staff. They should do the work. They are receiving taxpayer money. If they cannot do the work, they should be dismissed and pull out. Qualified to do the work should be hired. And I will close by saying, listen, Mr. President, if you're listening to me, do not take ministers from different offices and ministries to go to another ministry to do the ministry work. Then it defeats the purpose of having the different ministries. Why we have segregation of ministries when we're going to tell the minister and a deputy to go do the other minister work in his area like taking care to do. And if the point able to do the work, dismiss them. The best I can say, give them consultants to help them out plans, strategic plan, whatever they would need to get the job done, and technical advice. But if they cannot do the job in the absence of with the assistance of technical support, through consultancy, then fire them and put people who can do the job. We don't want to see rest committee, LEC committee, and, a few committees and all the other committees, and then at the end of the day, nothing happened. For 10 years so far. And I think you should still resign, get off the job because you don't have the competence for the job. And let Jeremiah Kun do something there and see where he can take this country.
Dr. Pearson, I think you got to wait for the election. Mr. Salif, let's close the way forward.
Yeah, I mean, thank you, Mr. Ja. I thought we were going to talk on the GSC audit, review all the allegations.
We'll put that to on point. Join Mr. Gaiman on point.
Unfortunately, we didn't have the time for that. The way forward is we need strategic leadership. Strategic leadership. I have already given my own my take on how to change the status quo in Liberia. I think we have to come to the point to start to develop think tank. We need a national think tank. We need a county think tank. We need a district think tank. We need a township think tank, so that we sit down under one roof and say, listen, as a country, for the next 6 years, these are the things we want to do. So when people are going for elections, whoever is interested in office, you're not telling us what you're going to do. All we want you to do is the country already has a path that we're on. You just telling us how we want to achieve those things, because it's like we just every 6 years we bring somebody, they pull us in this other direction. Oh no, this was coming for a change, pull us in this direction. It's just not working for us, and that's how we end up with JMB. JMB could have been a good person. I mean, he could have been a good leader, but as for this 7 months, what he has shown, I mean, he has not built my confidence, and I don't have hope for what's going to happen 6 years down the road. So if he wants to do this thing, he needs to first develop competence. He needs to develop that political will. This culture of impunity, we got to go away from it. If he does not have the will to hold people accountable, one of the callers talk about, oh, Dennis, if you were the CEO, anything happened, they will blame you. Listen, he is the president of the Republic of Liberia. If people are ministers that you appoint, if they are not doing their job, they should be fired and replaced. That's why we make other people sit up and say, you know what, I got to do this job or else I will be fired. I don't want to be fired. Hold people accountable. And he's not doing it because, like, I read something funny. One of the African countries, they said, the president took so much money and put in the prison, and the ministers were so angry. Say, how can we put all this money to develop the prison, and we're leaving our children, they're not going to proper school and this? He told the minister, he said, are you foolish? Do you think when they vote us out of office, we are going to school? We're going to prison. So we got to make the prison better so we can go there. So we got to hold people accountable, and I think JMB got to start from there. That would be the way forward, not just creating committee after committee. If people are not doing their job, let them be fired.
Thank you. Mr. Dugley.
I think, in my opinion, what is lacking in Liberia today is leadership. And not only just leadership, but leadership with vision for Liberia. And anything else is secondary to leadership in Liberia today. And sometimes, the culture of impunity is so embedded in our political system to the point where the laws are no longer deterrent. People are not afraid of being held accountable. People are no longer afraid of committing crimes that other people in other countries will do all their best to avoid. So until, we have to keep advocating for leadership in Liberia, because it is only through effective leadership can we make progress. It's sad, it's unfortunate when you look around us in the sub-region, you look at countries that we help gain their independence, countries that we help to put them, to let them stand up on their feet. Today, we are anywhere near those countries. And a country, one particular country in I would like to use as an example is the Republic of Togo. I remember many years ago, Togolese students used to come to Liberia to go to school, go to the University of Liberia. And if anyone on this planet can remember, up until very recently, the Republic of Cote d'Ivoire had only one university, one national university. And their overflow students used to come to the University of Liberia to go to school. We have seen what those countries have done. We've seen the result of what they've done. Why are we so different from them? If you go to Togo today, it's a different story. Very tiny, very tiny country. So we need to come to terms with what we are lacking and try to rise up. Otherwise, I don't see any better way forward. I don't want to sound as everything I'm saying is feel gloom, but the reality is just such that it's hard to resist. You know.
Thank you. Thank you. Let me remind you that tomorrow, which is Saturday at 7 p.m., we're going to have the Liberia History Channel. This time, we're going to talk about the crimes of Great Britain against Liberia. Great Britain have a lot of crimes against Liberia. We'll talk about that on the History Channel. The History Channel is every Saturday at 7 p.m. Sunday, 1 p.m., we have A New Day. That's the show with Priscilla Ginato or Priscilla Mambella. Talk about all the women issue and everything in between. Also, Sunday, 4 p.m., the unapologetic Sedition will be here with his crew on Point to debate the issue. You don't want to miss that. This Sunday, also at 7 p.m., the Justice Forum guys will be here. We want to discuss Article 54. Every time you tell the appointing power of the president has the power to appoint. What is in that appointment power? That's Article 54. We're going to deal with that. And also the Code of Conduct. Do you know the Code of Conduct has punished prescription? Or if you infringe upon the Code of Conduct, there are punishment in there. But we don't see that happening. So we're going to talk about that. You don't want to miss it. Every Tuesday, 7 p.m., our health show, Abby Tyler Healthy Living. You also don't want to miss it. Every day, Monday through Sunday, right here, focus on Liberia, where we educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. Mr. Kwangba, you're closing on the way forward.
Thank you, Dennis. And it's been a pleasure on this platform with everybody here. I think we've learned a lot. And going back to the caller there, Flomo, Brother Flomo, if you are listening, I think
Flomo training.
Yeah, no. What I want to say to Brother Flomo is, in order to have a thriving society, you must have people who will be able to sit and see what is red and say this is red. We don't want to be people who will see red and say it's blue because we want to make somebody happy tomorrow. But now, there is something fundamentally wrong with Liberian people. That includes all of us on this platform. Liberia has become a country where people with honesty and integrity are not appreciated. For example, if you work in government for, at least for me, I did 9.5 years, for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, and while doing your time in government, you chose to uphold your integrity as a person, meaning you lived on the income that government provided to you. Your very neighbors, the people in your own neighborhood, because you are not able to build skyscraper building, they say, look at that fully man there. All the years you are in government, you not do nothing for yourself. Whereas you went into government understanding working for your country is serving your country. And now where you're supposed to go to become millionaire. Our country, unfortunately, is one that those in the public sector, are the richest in our country. they make the most amount of money. All the millionaires we hear about today have either had a day or two or currently in the public sector. Where is the private sector? As a result, the entire country wants to become lawmaker. They do not want to become lawmaker because they want to pass laws that will impact the people positively. No. It's to become millionaire tomorrow morning. And so when the people elect them, within 2-3 months of their being elected as lawmakers, they already planning their re-election 6 years after. What we see happening in Liberia today, that people planning for 2029 happening so. People who do not even care about the primary responsibility of lawmaking. They dare to make deals and fatten their accounts so that when election time rolls around in 6 years, they will be able to spend money on the most amount of rice and the most amount of t-shirts for our people. And then the people will elect them again. Liberia problem has been about the mindset of our people. What is it we want to see from this country in 10 years, in 15 years, in 20 years? What it is that we want to see Liberia? How do we want to see this country look like? After all the carnage we went through in that country, things that are happening today say to me that we have not learned anything from the history of our country. Yeah. Because a leader comes in today and say to H with the Constitution, I am the guy. I do whatever makes me happy to this morning when I leave my house. We cannot have a better country with that mindset. Those in the public service must understand the reason that they are there is to serve the Liberian people, not for the Liberian people to worship them. The sooner we start to look at people as servants of this country and they themselves assuming that responsibility and doing what is required, the better it will be for Liberia. So we'll continue to talk, those of us that are making our time available to speak against ills in the society, and where we have to appreciate the president like we've done here, most of us, we will appreciate the president if he does good. But when he do it correct, we will tell you, say, you're not do it correct way. So thank you, Brother Ja.
Thank you,
everybody. Yeah.
Thank you. Elvis.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Jar. Pleasure being on the show tonight. Look, let me say this. I think one of the things that's holding us back is a lack of ingenuity when it comes to governance. I will give President Boakai free advice. You know, it may be simplistic, but you remember October rally time. You know, that was a mantra that the entire nation could get back. You know, can get behind, and we can work towards something collectively as a nation. And I think this whole role situation, this president could use it as his rally time and maybe put out bonds that can get the diaspora engaged, you know, for the entire country. Tell them this is what we need to do. We can't rely on other people to build our own country for us. Take a man building a house. Sometimes you spend your very last. It's so difficult, but when you look at that house when it's completed, you say, I built this house. You remember how difficult it was. So we as Liberians, we have to know it's going to be difficult to build that country. We're going to have to take austerity measures. We're going to have to spend our very last monies that we have on us to build roads, to build the infrastructure of that country. And I think President Boakai can do something and bring about a scheme that can make sure that every Liberian will be engaged in putting money towards building the country as a whole, but building roads, for example. Send, you know, put out bonds that we, you know, United States can buy for $500 or $1,000. Maybe you let it mature for 10 years or for 5 years, and we can cash it in. That money can be used for the road fund. We have to build our country. We can't depend on donors to build that country for us. We have to suffer to build it so we can say, you know what, we did this. We built this. We put our resources together and we built it. So I think this whole idea that we should continue to depend on donors to help us build roads, to help us, you know, build hospitals or to build other things. We as Liberians, we need a leader that we can get behind, that can put forward a plan that will unify us, and we can work towards one unified goal as all Liberians. What we can say, my man, you share your money to Liberia for that road fund. You buy your own bond, something we can discuss as a community in the diaspora and in the country, and say, we know what, in 3 years' time, we'll have this road done, we'll have this other highway paved, we'll have this other, you know, we have to have that collective idea of having one goal, and we're all working towards that goal. So I think President Boyka, use ingenuity, use new ways to get things done, involve the entire nation, involve the diaspora. And I think if you do that collectively as a people, we can be proud to say we did this and nobody else came from outside. We did this and we built this. So that's my only advice I would give to the president if he's listening. Hopefully he can have a rally time moment and put the whole country behind him and let him lead us to a glorious, development in the next 6 years of his presidency. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you. Dr. Sam Wallace said the president is not listening. Mr. Gamer, you got the last word.
Thank you. I think, Dennis, I like talking. This is one question you asked, and I have absolutely nothing. And I do not want to be seen as someone who is a doomsday scenario peddler. But Bacchus Matthew used to say this. He says, we are as good as our orientation. So let's look at Joseph Boakai. He's about 80 years. So 80 years ago, who was president of Liberia? We're talking about maybe Charles D.B. King, Bagley, Tubman, Talbot, Doe. You are talking about imperial presidents, people who had no constitutional or respect. These are folks who said they were judges, jury, and executioner. They decided who lived and who died. Today, you see Joseph Boakai. Almost every agency in Liberia, institution, are being headed by, acting. Everybody is acting because the Supreme Court have put up an obstruction, constitutional obstruction. And how do you do that when you are imperial president? You circumvent the system. So instead of saying the Supreme Court said you cannot hire somebody at LTA, so okay, I didn't hire anybody, but this guy is acting. At my own institution, Grand Bassa University, they clear everybody out. Everybody there is acting because the rule, the law says for you to appoint a new president at a university, a board of directors have to be constituted. Then a search committee had to be constituted. The search committee had to make 2 recommendations to the president, and the president has to appoint. They do not want to do that. So here we are. I was in Liberia in March. I went to visit most of the agencies, and they had these beautiful binders, policy and procedure. They were beautifully written. Guess what? They told me that they were consultants that wrote those binders, those policies, and they are only there when the NGO come in and the international community come in. You give it to them and say, they look at it and say, yeah, this is, but the implementation is not there. The country, the foundation is crooked. There's nothing. There's nothing we can do to straighten this. It is what it is. The Monrovia is not playing. You don't have 202 years old we are. We do not have sanitation. We do not have running water. We do not have electricity. Those are the basic necessities of civilization. 202 years. So, Mr. Jai, the question, the way forward, if I knew it, I would be selling you maybe a desert in Grand Bassa, but we don't have it. I have no idea. If everybody have tried and have not gotten it right, I don't think I'm an exception to that. Today, we heard that your friend, the managing port director, Mr. Dukley, has suspended Port Authority in all the counties because his birthday has to be celebrated. This is the kind of thing we are talking about. Now tell me, who does that?
Yeah, the will be independent under my leadership.
We're not supposed to talk about those bad things in the society because when you put us there, we'll not do the right thing. We'll do the same bad things.
According to Flomo.
According to Brother Flomo.
Thank you, gentlemen. And this is why it's very important that we speak the truth, no matter who is in authority. Because what I see, having been interviewing people right here on this network since 2017, what I see is if your friend or the person you support is in power, your tone is different. What was right then, is wrong now. and vice versa. So let us be careful not to, it's collusion. Even we will be here crying on the legislators, but when our own friend, the legislator, come, we are piling around with them because they have a lot of money. So
John, let me pass one information before you go further. I think today I did see, or I watched a video when the current acting Minister of Finance Development Planning submitted the draft, the recast budget to the speaker. And I think we're having a problem coming because the speaker stated clearly, right, that yes, we accepting this, but we've already established a committee again to investigate the issue of budget tampering. Until those things are concluded, the recasting that you want to call it will be on the back burner. So let's watch and see what's going to happen there.
Definitely, we're going to be watching for that, and that's why we should always, because sometimes we go in the corner and side with people, we collusion, and then when they come back, because that's our friend. The story is told in Sino. There was this guy who stole a friend's sheep. He stole the sheep and he was sued. So he hired a lawyer, and this lawyer advised him, well, we'll act like you crazy. Any question they ask you in court, say, bah. So they went to court, because we sit there employing this thing when we have our friend, because it benefits us. So he went, and any question they asked him, he said, bah, what's your name? Bah. He did that throughout. So the judge said, they threw him outside, he's crazy. So he won the case, they dismissed him. So he went home now. So the lawyer went to him and said, my money. He said, bad. Gentlemen, I want to thank all of you for coming.
I will color your t-shirt and say, you don't know Bobo, you will give up.
Then you need to tell where you get this story from.
The secret is I was supposed to be a medicine man, but then the minute went to my town, let's continue with our song that says we are all Nigerians. No bad here.
Man.
We are Liberians. Liberia is our home. Liberian people. Liberian.